What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/EntitledParents. This story's called, I don't care that he has lice, he is still going to school. Okay, so I've been ghosting around in this subreddit for a while, and I always wanted to tell this story for pretty much a while. But I felt bad for the kid, and I didn't want to post it without his permission. But recently, I met him again on Instagram, and we chatted for a bit, and I asked him if it was okay to post on Reddit, and I would censor out any identity, and he said it was fine, but I hope this is the right place to post this. That was thoughtful. Context. During my elementary school years, I was enrolled in special education because I have Asperger's, and everyone else had emotional problems or disabilities that would affect their learning. Now, let's talk about my friend. His fake name would be Isaac. Isaac was one of my good friends who would talk about Legos a lot and art. But he was a very sensitive kid, and whenever he was overcome by a certain emotion, he tended to cry. But overall, he was the nicest kid I've ever met in my whole entire school years. Also, please bear with me, I'm in high school right now, and this was back in 4th grade, so I may not remember all the details. So, without further ado, here we go. Cast. Me, teacher, friend, Karen, Isaac, principal. So, it was back in 4th grade, in September. Everyone and I were doing our work until the teacher told us to stop and announced, "Alright class, today we are doing a lice checkup at the nurse's office, and the supervisor would be coming to pick you up and take you directly to the nurse's office, so we would be going by 10 people at a time and by alphabetical order on last names." Our class had 30 people. 10 minutes go by, we hear a knock on the door, and the teacher answered, and it was the supervisor, and the teacher announced the names of the first 10 people, and I was one of them. We go in, and all of us were fine and head back to class. 10 more people, and Isaac was one of them. 5 minutes go by, and everyone comes back except Isaac, and the last row headed to the nurse's office, and again 10 minutes go by, and everyone came back to the class, and no sight of Isaac. But the supervisor told the teacher to come in with her in the hallway, and they went to the hallway, and then I turned around to talk with friend. What happened to Isaac? I don't know. After I was done getting my checkup and I sat down in the waiting room, I started hearing yelling in the principal office, and it sounded like Isaac's mom. What was she yelling about? It was something like, "You're lying, and that's not true, and I'm gonna sue you." Holy crap, I thought her mom was nice. Yeah, same. And then we were interrupted when the teacher walked in and announced we can go to the computer lab and play cool math games, which everyone cheered, and we ran to the computers. Everyone had their own laptop or a Chromebook with their names on it. But then we heard this. Principal yelling from the hallway, "Ma'am, stop walking away." "Don't tell me what to do, booty hole." Everyone turned to look at the door, and the yelling kept getting louder and louder until the door swings open, but not successfully because it was a safety door. You know the ones. "Teacher, I am leaving Isaac here to be educated." "Ma'am, your child could not be here, or everyone else would get lice in this classroom." "I don't care, and you can't tell me what to do." "You are causing a disturbance in front of minors, and you are trespassing. You better leave because the staff called the police on you." "I don't care if the effing police come. They can take me, but my child is gonna be staying here alone." She turned to look at us while we were watching this frick fest. "You stupid idiots, you told them he has lice. I knew it was you guys bullying Isaac. You all should be in trouble, and your teacher should call everyone's parents right now and tell them they are bullying my son." We turned to look at Isaac, and he looked back at us, and then his face was red and he started to cry. And entitled mother turns to look at him and freaking slaps him, and everyone was in shock. "Stop crying, you are just giving them the reaction they want." Cue everyone's surprised Patrick face. Huh? Now basically this was literally a frick fest. Secondly, she slapped her own child, a special ed child, and she cussed at us, which we were also special eds. And she ignored the principal's warning to leave and chose to cause a scene. Isaac started crying even louder, then entitled mother was gonna hit him again until the principal and the teacher stopped her, which the principal took the slap to the face, and teacher pulled entitled mother away from Isaac. "Let go of me!" Teacher dragged entitled mother into the hallway and closed the door behind her, and we can still hear yelling in the background. Principal checked on Isaac to see if he was okay, and Principal told Isaac to be with me and everyone else. Then Principal walked out of the class, and 5 minutes later, Teacher came back and surprisingly, she looked fine, and entitled mother was nowhere to be heard. Teacher walked up to Isaac and brought him into the other side of the room, and they talked and they both hugged without caring about the lice. Teacher called Isaac's father and explained what happened, and 40 minutes later, he arrived, and before he left, me and some of our classmates hugged Isaac before he left, and then after that, teacher looked at us and thanked us and apologized for the disturbance, and she put a movie on for us and didn't see Isaac for a week. Then he came back and told us she was charged for assault and child mistreatment, and his dad filed for a divorce, and everyone, including I, was happy for him because entitled mother was not gonna hurt Isaac anymore, and then in 5th grade, he left to a different state. And I never saw him until recently, and right now he's doing fine. And he has a new mom that never criticizes him for who he is and is not afraid to show his true colors. What a wonderful mom. I'm sorry this post was very long, and as I'm typing this, I just realized I am a very crappy storyteller, so please don't butcher me. Hopefully, you at least enjoy it. Don't you worry, buddy, your storytelling skills were just fine, alright? Thank you. I want to thank you for making sure to hug Isaac before he left, because that must have really made him feel a lot better about having lice, because I never had lice or anything like that, but my little cousin, when he lived with me, the poor guy got ringworm and he got bullied for it so bad. Everyone acted like he was gross, and I felt really bad. And so Isaac definitely probably felt very alienated and gross. And I know for a fact those hugs definitely helped. Also because hugs are always nice when something very emotional like that occurs. Anyways, I just really want to appreciate how everyone handled that, except for the entitled mother. Everyone else, freaking G's. This story's called Entitled Parent Insists That Her Baby is in Pain. This story is a few years ago, but I still remember it very well. Also because it was my first encounter with an entitled parent. Here's the cast. Entitled parent. Poor boy. Nurse. Me, a penguin with red velvet shoes. A little background. My daughter had a bad fever a few years ago, and due to complications and a crappy doctor, she was hospitalized for a few days. I don't know how this is handled in other countries, but here you can stay as a parent with your child in the same room until the child is released from the hospital. So my little one got a bed in a nice 2-bed room, where I met entitled parent for the first time. Her son, a really friendly little boy who is unfortunately mentally and physically impaired and in need of help, was also admitted as a patient. But I do not remember exactly why. Entitled parent seemed very friendly to me at the beginning. We started talking. She even told me why they were here and what causes his condition. It's years ago, I really do not remember. She seemed really worried about him. Poor boy could not even sit or eat alone because of his disability, and I must confess that I was relieved that my daughter was only sick, because I did not know if I could have mastered her situation. As I said, she looked friendly and worried about him, but I wouldn't be writing this if it was just that, right? The first day seemed pretty normal. I admit, I wasn't really paying attention because I was more worried about my own daughter. But entitled parents seemed to be just like every other worried mother. It was the second day when it started, beginning with her impatience in the morning. After the doctor's visit, he ordered a special breakfast with medication for the poor boy from the nurse in charge. Entitled parent tore open the door every few minutes. It was a bit disturbing, so after the 6th or 7th time, I carefully asked what was on her mind. She said that the nurse was still not there with the breakfast, and it was about time for that. As a reminder, the doctor was out of the room for less than 5 minutes, and the affected nurse still with him on his morning visit through the other rooms. It's routine and known, so it seemed a bit strange that she thought breakfast would come within a few minutes. She even rang for the nurse, which came running a few minutes later to ask what was going on, and to tell her that she should have a little patience. After all, they still had a tour to do, and poor boy would not be forgotten. Nurse left, and entitled parent started walking in the room up and down while she kept mumbling poor boy needed his medication. He was not feeling well, and that everybody should listen to her because she knows better. The breakfast came at some point, and everything seemed good again. Her boyfriend came to visit soon after, and she complained to him about the incident, dragging him out the door, so I don't even know what he responded with. The second incident took place shortly after lunch. You know the food in the hospital? You're either lucky and it's good, or you get bad luck and it's awful. In Entitled Parents' case, definitely not good enough. She complained that she was still hungry and demanded that her boyfriend get her something to eat, and suddenly disappeared with him because she did not want to wait until he returned, leaving her baby without telling the nurse. When she was asked about that after her return, she grumbled hours afterwards that she had only been away for a short time, and everything was okay because she, me, was there to look after my precious little baby. She really thought I would take care of her child, ignoring the fact that she never even asked, and I was under the assumption she was only on the floor outside the room. Similar incidents occurred in the following days. Sometimes she would have poor boy just left alone without saying anything to anyone. Then she kept constantly ringing the nurse because she believed poor boy needed more medication, nagging after the refusal that she knows better than anyone and everyone should listen to her. And once or twice she said out of the blue she thought she was pregnant and hoped the second child would at least become normal, which sounded really horrible in my ears. Yes, poor boy would need help until the end of his life. But as she spoke, it seemed like she wished he would stop breathing on the spot. The last incident finally took place in the middle of the fourth night. My daughter had fallen asleep shortly before. Luckily she got better and we hoped to be home soon. And poor boy fell asleep just after her. I was pretty tired myself. Entitled Parents, unfortunately not. For several minutes, she tried to force conversation on me. Absolutely wanted me to order a pizza with her together. Again, the food was not enough for her, and when she noticed that my answers were increasingly rare, she paced in front of poor boy's bed. She kept staring at him, shaking his shoulder a few times, left to sit on her bed, then got back up to stand by his bed. It irritated me so much that I was a little more awake again, and I asked if everything was alright. She said no, poor boy would be in pain. I was surprised because poor boy was just lying in his bed, sleeping soundly. So I asked why she thought he was in pain. She replied that his eyes would move. That made me curious, so I got up and walked to the bed next to Entitled Parent. In fact, his eyes moved behind his closed eyelids, but his whole body was relaxed, his expression peaceful, nothing to indicate pain. I watched poor boy for a moment before I remembered and told Entitled Parent that he was probably in the REM phase, so he was dreaming, and that these eye movements are completely normal. She did not believe it because she knows better, and I was probably just hoping her baby died because I was jealous that everyone just paid attention to him instead of my daughter. I was absolutely dumbfounded. I mean, lady, that's just a poor little but very happy boy. Why should I wish he dies? She rang once again for the nurse. Nurse seemed a little frustrated when she came in. Entitled Parents also told her that her son was in pain and he needed urgent medication. Nurse looked at poor boy, felt his pulse, checked his breathing and his eyes, and told Entitled Parent that poor boy was asleep and the movement of his eyes was completely normal. Nurse went back afterwards. Entitled Parent was not satisfied, and it was not long before she rang nurse again. She insisted that poor boy is in pain and needed medication. Nurse repeated again, but was interrupted by Entitled Parent with a rather harsh and loud, "I know better, now call me a doctor." I had enough. I checked on my daughter, which was luckily still asleep, and left the room for a quick breath outside because I didn't want to explode right there and then, waking up the little ones for sure. After I returned, 10 minutes later or so, I ignored her and went to sleep. The next day, first thing in the morning was that she told me triumphantly grinning she was right. Poor boy was in pain and the doctor had told her she was right and gave medication to the boy. Fortunately for me, Entitled Parent, her boyfriend, and unfortunately, poor boy, left the hospital not an hour after breakfast. Although poor boy was still under surveillance there, but Entitled Parent insisted on taking their own risk and visiting another clinic because we were not taken seriously and my little baby deserved better treatment. I was glad that she was gone. The nurses were all glad she was gone. And guess what? Poor boy had no pain. He was dreaming and the doctor gave the boy only a placebo during the night, as the nurse subsequently told me. Okay, so this really annoys me because that's a kid's life, you know? And holy cow, when I read that she wishes that, you know, she hopes that the next kid is normal, and the Redditor said that she felt like the entitled parent wishes her son would die right then and there. Even if that's true or not, like that the mother wishes the son would just kind of die so that burden would be gone. I can't imagine how difficult it would be to have a son as debilitated as that. And I can really imagine frustration at some points, you know, like, oh, why? You know what I'm talking about. I don't want to assume anything, but I think I got the right idea. And I'm sure you guys in the comments below can confirm that there are times where it's really hard. I don't know, this is just really sad, because if it was the entitled mother that was under hospital care, then yeah, I wouldn't care. But someone so stupid and irresponsible taking care of a child that obviously needs a lot of care, I really hope he's doing well still, because this was years ago. Oh man, that's upsetting. This story's called Electronic Arts Steals Computer from Plane. I'm kinda hesitant about posting on here, but this story is just too good. Major players. Entitled Aunt, Uncle, me, Mom. Okay, so this happened a few years ago when my uncle was moving from Mexico to the US to get his master's degree. He left a few weeks before my aunt to get an apartment and to start classes while she finished packing up her house in Mexico. As a little backstory, she's one of those people that does awful things, but manages to frame everything as God's will to justify her actions. It's kinda crazy the things she's gotten away with, like telling me that I needed an exorcism and actually lined one up for me, but that's another story. Anyways, we met up with them after they had settled into their house, and my aunt starts telling us this hilarious story. So apparently, she was on the plane from Mexico to the US, and while on the plane, there was a businessman in front of her, and he had his business laptop with him. The way that she told it was exactly like this in front of my family. So I was on the plane and prayed the entire flight that he would leave his laptop on the plane so that I could take it so your uncle could do his homework. God knows that we need the money and can't afford a new laptop. So if he leaves it, it's a sign from God for me to take it. But you didn't take it, did you? Well, that's the wonderful thing. It was a miracle because when he was getting off the flight, he left his laptop in the front pocket of the seat. And I prayed harder that he wouldn't remember that he was missing his laptop. So I waited until the plane was empty and I grabbed it. God really works miracles. What the hell is wrong with you? You realize that business laptops can be tracked, right? You need to return it.
That's what I told her, but she won't let me see it so I can contact the guy.
I really don't understand what's so wrong with it. God wanted us to have it. You don't appreciate anything I do for you. Can't you see it's what God wants for us? So my mom ended up forcefully taking the laptop and mailing it back to the owner. But the moral is that my aunt is insane. This isn't even the worst thing she's done, but I don't think it belongs necessarily in this subreddit. Okay, first of all, your mother, amazing person. Good. I'm honestly astounded that she went through all that trouble just to get this dude's laptop back to him. And I know exactly what you're talking about with that aunt, man. Holy crap, the stuff that is justified through religion is insane. Wow. Okay, sorry. Moving on. Actually, no, that was the last story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.